Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome dear students. This is Miss Layla Al-Jihani. Inshallah today we will continue our unit Drive Slowly. Today inshallah we will cover lesson 4, language and context. Before we start, let's recall what we covered in our previous lesson. In our previous lesson we covered lesson 3, the grammar. We differentiated between must, mustn't, should and shouldn't. Must, mustn't, we use it when we are talking about rules, and should and shouldn't, we use it when we are giving suggestions and giving advice. Also, we covered adverbs of manner. We differentiated between the adjectives and the adverbs. Adjectives, we use it to describe nouns. Adverbs, we use it to describe actions and verbs, okay? Adverbs of manners, also we talked about how we add ly at the end. We change the adjective into an adverb by adding ly, like slow, slowly. And also some adjectives we don't change the form of it. Fast, fast. It's the same when it's an adjective and when it is an adverb. Inshallah today, by the end of the lesson, you will be able to use modal auxiliaries must, mustn't, must not, and should, shouldn't in a given context. We will use it in a context, okay? So we will practice our grammar in a context. We will discuss it together, inshallah, okay? So before we start, we have a homework page. I gave you homework 2 pages, 96 and 97. Okay, let's cover 96 first. Read the rules and advice that Mr. Day gave his students. Use that information to write sentences. Use must, mustn't, must not, should and shouldn't. So also in our homework we are revising our grammar. You have in your book a list of rules. So it's related to these rules. Mr. Day English class, the rules and advice for his students, okay? So this is the list of rules. You can see it in a box before the questions. These are the questions. For example, he gave you an example. Turn in homework late. You should or shouldn't. You must or mustn't turn your homework late. So we write must not turn in homework late, okay? So number 1, give me your homework on time. So we say you must, excellent, you must give me your homework on time, or you should give me your homework on time. But what did we say about the difference between must and mustn't, must and should? Must has a more formal meaning. It is more stronger in tone. So here we say you must give me your homework on time. Read every night. You should or shouldn't? You should read every night. 3, study just before the test. Should you study just before the test or every day at the time? Whenever you finish a class you have to study. Every day you have to study at least a small part, صح? So when the exam comes you should be ready. So you should not study just before the test. لا, you should start days before. Study every day. Number 4, you should study every day, okay? And also here 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm sure you did it all together. Let's read the answers together. Number 1, you must give me your homework on time, as we said. Number 2, you should read every night. Number 3, you shouldn't study just before the test. You should study every day. This is number 4. Number 5, you must not turn in your homework late. This is the example. Number 5, sorry. You must not talk in class. Number 6, you must take 3 tests. This is a requirement. Worry. 7, you shouldn't worry. 8, you should ask me for help. okay? This is for exercise in page 96. What about 97? You have exercise C. Talk about the law and give advice. You have to use also must, must not, should, and shouldn't, okay? Now, we'll only have 20 minutes for your driving lesson. Get here on time. This is the information. So from that information, which rule we got? You should get here on time. But what about number 1? You are driving recklessly and dangerously. Okay? Show some concern for other drivers and for me. What is the rule we get from there? Think about it. We say you should, or you must not drive recklessly, for example, and dangerously. Write down any rule you think it's appropriate. Okay, number 2, you passed that car on the right. That's against the law. Okay, so what should we say? Okay, number 3, you are driving too fast. The speed limit is only 70 kilometers per hour here. So which rule did you get from number 3? So for number 1, you shouldn't drive recklessly and dangerously. This is the first rule we got. صح? You should show some concern for other drivers and for me. So we divided these two sentences. We added you shouldn't, and the second sentence you should. Okay? Number 2, you must pass cars on the left. That's the law. Okay? Number 3, you are driving too fast. You shouldn't drive too fast. You must obey the speed limit. You must obey the speed limit. Okay, this is for number 3. Now here, write sentences, give 3 laws that a good driver must obey. Use must and mustn't. Here you have to write statements. A good driver, what must he do? What mustn't he do? Okay, so write 3 sentences. Here they gave you an example. A good driver must not drive too fast. This is a law. Can you think about other examples? Can you think about other examples? And we can write it here. I have here 3. I'm sure you wrote much better sentences than these. A good driver must stop at stop signs. A good driver must obey all traffic signs. A good driver must not pass on the right. Okay? So here, if you notice, we used what? Stop, obey, pass. The verb, remember, when you are forming sentences, the verb should be in the base form. You should not add s, ed, nothing. Okay? The base form of the verb. Also here, you have to answer the questions. You should and shouldn't. The previous one we used must and mustn't. Here you should write should and shouldn't. Okay? What should a good driver do when there is a lot of traffic? So here you should write sentences using should and shouldn't. Let's see the examples together. A good driver should slow down. A good driver shouldn't talk on a cell phone. 3, a good driver should watch the other cars carefully. Okay? Now, for our class today, inshallah, page 16. Can you open your books, page 16? We have today, inshallah, language and context. You have a picture on your book, okay, a man, he's wearing sunglasses. What do you notice about the man? Is he wearing a seat belt? No, he is not. Also here, the man, he is not wearing a seat belt. Does he look calm when he's driving? Do you think he's speeding? Maybe. Do you think he is angry and aggressive? Yes, from his face we know he is aggressive. And here we see a person who is driving with his phone. Should we use our phones when we are driving? No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't use our phones when we are driving. So when you see a man or a person driving without a seatbelt and he's drinking coffee and he's using his phone and he's turning right and left without caring about other cars, is this a good driver? Is he or she a good driver? No, they're not. Okay? So a good driver, we have some laws we have to obey to be a good driver. We have to wear seat belts. Excellent. We shouldn't or should use our phones. We shouldn't use our phones when we are driving. We should focus when we are driving. صح? So today we are talking about good drivers and aggressive drivers, reckless drivers. Okay, let's look at our books, language and context. You have 3 statements, and under the statements you can see a chart. صح? We will see the chart in the next slide. So we will answer these questions based on the chart. The first question, mark the things. We have a chart. We have to mark the things that characterize an aggressive driver. An aggressive driver. Do you think he's a good driver or a bad driver? He's a bad driver. He's a reckless driver. He is a driver who does not follow the laws of traffic. Okay? Question 3, statement 3, mark the things you should or must do when you encounter one. What do they mean here? يعني when you are driving, if you see a reckless driver, a driver who doesn't care, careless driver, what should you do as a good driver? What should you do? Okay? Think about the things you should do. Okay? 3, compare and discuss your answers with a partner. When you finish answering the question, you should change it to a speaking exercise. You should talk. This is we should, la, we should not. So discuss the answers together. Okay? So we will start with the first one. Mark the things that characterize an aggressive driver. This is the table. You can see it on your book. Okay, this is the table. Aggressive drivers. So which one we should put a tick next to it? You have a space to put a tick, صح? طب an aggressive driver, does he drive dangerously and recklessly? If it's true, then put a tick. Does an aggressive driver go through stop signs and red lights? Does he do that or he follow traffic lights? Are aggressive drivers are courteous and cautious and other motorists? So does that, can we say it's true about aggressive drivers? Does the aggressive driver tailgate drive closely behind the car? Does he drive closely behind the car or he leave a safe distance between him and the car in front? Does the aggressive driver blow their horns and flash their lights? So when they are driving, do they blow their horns and flash the light to behind the other car? Do they do that? Think about it. Do the aggressive driver let others pass them? Do they let others pass them or they don't leave a space? Okay, think about it. Think about when you are going to school. Do you encounter any of these drivers? What are they doing? Notice what are they doing? Okay? So let's see the answers. For the first one, mark the things that characterize an aggressive driver. Number 1, we said the aggressive driver drives dangerously and recklessly. He is reckless. He doesn't care about anyone. He is driving in a dangerous way. Okay? The second one, we will put a tick next to it. An aggressive driver goes through stop signs and red lights. He doesn't follow the laws of traffic, okay? And also he tailgate, drive closely behind the other car. He doesn't leave a space between him and the person in front of him, okay? They blow their horns and flash their lights, okay? So this is the things aggressive drivers do, okay? Now, if you encounter or when you are driving, you saw an aggressive driver, what should you do? We have a list here, the things you should do, like what? Get out of the way. Should you get out of the way and let them pass? Challenge them to show you aren't scared. Do we challenge them? Ignore them and their gestures. Do we ignore them? And if they are doing something with their gestures, let's race or doing anything, or they're angry or something, do we ignore them, or we're looking at them and respond to their gestures? Avoid eye contact. Should we look at them when we are driving, or we avoid them? Okay? Should we blow our horns? Should we do that? Should we report them to the authorities? Should we tell the police about their behavior? Or think about any other things you do when you are encountering an aggressive driver. Okay, for the second one, mark the things you should and must do when you encounter one. Number 2. So we said, what should we do? Think about it, put a tick on the things you think you should do when you encounter one. Let's see it one by one. So we should get out of the way. We should get out of the way, let them pass, okay? And we should ignore them and their gestures. We should ignore them, okay? If they are blowing horns, if they doing flash, ignore them, okay? Don't look at them. Avoid eye contact. Don't look at them. Report them to authorities, report them to the police and any authorities you can see when you are driving, okay? So this is the things we should do. These are the qualities of aggressive drivers, and these are the things you should do when you are encountering an aggressive driver. Now think about any story happened to you when you are with your family, when you are driving. Have you ever encountered a reckless driver? If this happened to you, what did your driver or your father or your mother do when they were driving? Did they ignore them? Did they follow the things we discussed or no? Okay, so try to discuss the stories together. And for your homework, I want you to do page 98. What did we cover in our lesson today? Today we covered how we use must and mustn't to follow the rules of traffic, and the things we should and shouldn't do when we are encountering an aggressive driver. Also, for the homework, we did many exercises using should and shouldn't, must and mustn't. That's it for today. Thank you for listening, and inshallah I will see you next class.